I think the day after my first abuse had occurred, and I had gone to the bathroom, and I just caught myself in the mirror, and I just felt this wave of hate wash over me for my own self. And I was just I think everyone can somewhat understand that feeling where you just don't feel safe in your skin. You don't feel like you're you. I was just so lost in so much pain and hurt and confusion. And I was just I looked at myself and I was like, I don't want this to be a reality anymore. I just want to be done.
So the first time, and honestly, a lot of people, not even a lot of my close friends know this, but the first time I ever thought about suicide, I was in second grade, and I just remember having this really deep sadness inside of me. I remember I was in a corner of the classroom, and I tried to put scissors to my throat, and it was a whole big thing. I was seeing a therapist at the time because I was just having a lot of behavioral issues as a child. So I also feel like that probably stemmed from something that happened to me, but I don't know if anything or I don't remember. And I know sometimes the brain kind of blocks it out. But that was the first time I ever thought about it. And then when I had my domestic violence, then I would experience those thoughts again. But
I think for me, it was probably in my mid 30s, and I was just kind of right in the midst of um, just being in a bad situation, trying to fight cancer, going through a lot of pain, job loss, feeling made to feel like I was a financial burden. Um, there was, very little emotional availability for me. And it was the first time where I I thought about it and then almost used it as a coping mechanism. So for me, it was just sort of, I had this face on throughout my day and especially in front of my children. And then I would go to bed at night just needing some kind of release. And that was kind of those thoughts were that release at the time. So definitely in that decade of my life for sure.
I think the first time I think I was truly moved by it and recognized in hindsight that I was having these thoughts was, I think the day after my first abuse had occurred. And I had gone to the bathroom and I just caught myself in the mirror, and I just felt this wave of hate wash over me for my own self. And I was just I think everyone can somewhat understand that feeling where you just don't feel safe in your skin. You don't feel like you're you. I was just so lost in so much pain and hurt and confusion. And I was just I looked at myself and I was like, I don't want this to be a reality anymore. I just want to be done. And I think that was that first time I had thought about it, and I was seriously considering it, and not just oh, I want to die, school's hard. Not that that's not valid as well, but I think it was the first time it really, really gripped me. And so, yeah. Yeah, I think kind of hit on it earlier, just a lot of self-hate. I feel as though I'm inadequate. I feel as though things would be better off without me. I feel as though I'm a burden. And I feel as though in my absence, someone better would come along. And I just very much feel like that would be the case when I get to those moments. And sometimes the thoughts come so fast and so quick that I don't even have time to process them. I just don't like stuff. I don't even know what it is, but everything's just bad right now. And I just want stuff to stop. And I think that's a big point too, is like, I think often I feel overwhelmed and I'm just like, I just want things to stop. I just want to be done. I'm so exhausted of like fighting and having to prove myself and having to do whatever it is. And so, yeah, I think that's like an aspect of what those thoughts look like for me.
Yeah, for me, I would have a lot of thoughts of feeling worthless, like I didn't have like a purpose, like I was nothing, like similar, like I was a burden. And I also felt that too. I just felt just tired, just over it, just like I just don't have it in me anymore. Like I just don't understand the point, like why, like I don't know, like why I'm like what's the point of it all? So I definitely relate to that.
I think for me, I have a very bubbly personality. I'm actually like extremely outgoing, and I would, be at my son's baseball game and talking to everybody, and everybody thinks that, my life is hunky dory, and everybody's like, oh, here's the cancer survivor. She's so awesome, and she's brave and strong, and look at all the things she does. And the reality was, I was this masked person on the outside, and I would come home to something completely different and cry myself to sleep and just try to figure out how are things so absolutely terrible for me, and how does nobody actually really know what is happening. And suicide ideation for me became a reconciliation of those two things, because what I masked on the outside and versus what I really felt on the inside did not make sense to me. And when I would sit in my car and I would start to plan out my suicide, it became a reconciliation. And like I said before, it actually almost became this sort of release, this coping kind of feeling. And at the end of all of it, I came to this sense of closure and peace. And it was just something at the time that just worked. It helped me get through, as weird as it sounds for me to say that, but it was just something that worked at that time. And that's what it was like for me.
Yeah, it definitely led to an attempt for me. I don't know if I'm at a place yet where I can share specific details, but yeah, definitely like went to some dark places and definitely made an attempt.
True for me. And my attempt happened during my first experience with domestic violence, but it was interrupted by my abuser at the time. So.
False for me. Even though everything was planned out, there was just something inside me that knew that I wasn't going to go through with it.
I think my hesitation to talk about these things typically comes from a place of not wanting to be just the person who's like going through this thing. I often just outside of life or just in life, I try to be someone who can do a lot of different things. I want to be someone who can be in different places and interact with different people and be someone who's varied and interesting in that nature. So I think my issue becomes when I talk to people about these things, sometimes everything that I've done becomes discarded for the sake of this one thing. And I think that comes from a really good place. They're really concerned and they're genuinely worried. But for me, I think it's so reductionistic to my character and my personality, the journey that we've all been through, to reduce me down to that one thing. I think now, like when I was reviewing the question, I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, now that you mention it, like, yeah, I am a little concerned because I definitely know some people who would like jump the gun and be like, all right, you got to go. And I'm like, I don't want to go though. And so, yeah, definitely have a difficult time opening up about these things. And yeah, it's just a very sensitive topic.
So For me, it's not that I find it hard to talk to people about it because I feel like they're going to commit me. I feel like if I were to talk to them about it, it, they would just have an open ear because I have talked to my brother about it once before. But for me, I find it more hard because I don't want to look weak. And that's something that I struggle with, especially being a founder of my nonprofit, because it's not weak, right? To show that you're going through something or to ask for help and say what you're going through. But sometimes you do feel like that. So that's one thing I'm trying to work on, is acknowledging that I feel like that and it's okay to feel like that. But that doesn't mean that I have to feel like this alone, and that I can talk to someone if I need to.
I don't know if I ever thought forward enough to think that someone would commit me. It was definitely something that I kept very secret and to myself. So it wasn't something that I discussed. It was something that I had all in my own. And I even had like planned times where I was going to think about it, and in my car, and just weird things like that I just kind of had in my head. And it was just my thing only. So I never thought to myself, oh, if I say this to somebody, they're going to commit me. I just thought, this is just mine. Nobody's going to know about it.
I think my answer is going to be a little nuanced. I've definitely had conversations with friends just about my assault, my abuser, like things that I'm going through, that I'm really struggling. But I still very much hesitate to open about these feelings. And I think Nayoché really hit on it. And when she said it, was like, I was like, oh, dude, like that's why I don't open up. I think it's for fear of being perceived as weak, because I know that my friends will accept me and love me and support me because they've been with me through so much. But I think it's that hesitation of like, I don't want to be weak. And I think even more so, I feel it, especially as like someone who is a male and someone who is like a provider and someone who's supposed to be like, I guess, a leader. I think it's, yeah. And I just said that, I was like, oh, dip, like things just connected right there. And so I think there are people like that in my life, but I think it's a personal hesitation to share those feelings.
So I do have people in my life. Like I said, my brother is one that I can talk to. I know I can talk to my mom about it, but I choose not to because my mom is very quick to blame herself for the things that I've been through. So she feels like in some way she's failed me, or that she's inadequate as a parent because I've had feelings like this. So I don't necessarily like to talk to her about it. But I can talk to my brother. But yeah, like what Lo said goes back to, I don't want to, like feel weak or have the impression that like, oh, like I need your help. Well, I do need your help, but not in a belittling way, like not like a sympathizing, like empathize with me and be there for me. But yeah, it's hard to try to get out of that role, especially when the person that I like to talk to, I like, I'm like older. So it's also kind of like a little weird for me too.
I think like the real twisted thing about my situation is the narcissistic abuse made me feel like I was a burden and that I was to blame for everything and for all of their problems. So the last thing I was going to do was to come to anybody for help, because I was obviously a burden, or I was, there was going to be another thing that was wrong with me. And so I did not go to people. I did not go to friends. And I'm the type of friend that wants to make sure everybody else is okay. And I have very few friends that actually want to make sure that I'm okay. And I don't know if I choose friends purposely so that they don't ask. And that might be some weird protective mechanism in me. As long as I'm taking care of everyone else, then we're good. I just don't know. And I feel like it really does stem from the narcissistic abuse that I endured for many years. And I have one friend that actually I just started coming to terms with the ideation, that knows about it, that I've just been open with. And since Survivor Tribe have been really coming to terms with a lot of things that I've experienced that I just bottled up or just kept down. So it's been a really interesting year of realizing, okay, people that I can trust, that I can actually have very open conversations about it. And it's the first time really I have in over a decade.
Yeah, I think my methods always change. Like each time it's like a little different in a little different way, and an adaptation to something I used to do. I think the first time I really recognized it was I like was shocked at how much hate I had in my heart for myself. And I was just like, it like knocked me out of like anything. And I was just like looking at my hate for myself as for what it was. And I was like, what the actual heck is going on? Like, how could this be the reality that I have in my head? And that like really, really shocked me. And I think even more so now, I'm trying to recognize more so that sometimes we do things and our presence is such an intangible benefit for people that people, you might think to yourself, oh, it's better off that it's better for people to live on without me. But there are things in which you are contributing that are so intangible and so unimaginable that are impactful. And I think that's an important thing to also recognize, is that yes, like it's hard and you feel as though this is true, but there are things that are so far beyond you, and people who genuinely are thinking about you and like, man, what these people said to me and the way they smiled or the way they talk or the way they do XYZ is important and it is impactful. And to think that the life that you are living and the things that you are going through, you have an opportunity to share that with someone else. That the path you are walking along, there's someone who is behind you, walking the same path, suffering the same thing, thinking the same thing. And you have an opportunity to like turn around and to tell this person like, hey, like I know what you're going through because I was down here, and like, let me come alongside you. And I think that's something to also consider, and things that have helped me to kind of like knock myself out of like this almost trance that you get into, where you just spiral. And so, yeah.
So for me, in the beginning, what helped me walk out of or back out of a suicidal moment, it was my dogs. Because like my dogs, if anyone knows me, my dogs are my babies. I love them. They're my two furry sons. And when I was in those moments during my domestic violence, when I was feeling suicidal, my dogs would kind of be there because I'd be like, if I'm not here, who's gonna take care of them? Like, like no one's gonna take care of like two pit bulls. Like who's gonna take home? Like, they're gonna separate them. So in the beginning, that would kind of help me back out of it. But then more down the line, it became more about me, because like what Laura said, like what you said resonated with me so much, because I had this immense amount of self-hatred, and it's so crazy. And I think that's why my foundation is so focused on self-love, because when you realize and acknowledge how you genuinely feel about yourself, I think that also helps you to back out of in that moment of wanting to get rid of yourself. So
The self-love is definitely a big thing, and it's been something that has been a crazy difficult journey for me as well. My answer would be my children. So, I mean, they keep me going, and I have to be there for them. And that's what made me stop. And I get to points too, though, where I kind of reason even with that. Well, they're old enough now. They're good. They're good. And I have to still be like, no, I still have a lot to do. My little students need me. My family needs me. My cat needs me. So like you were talking about your dogs. So and being a cancer survivor and being part of a cancer group as well, I feel like I'm out here for a reason, and maybe I've gone through all these things for a reason. Somebody out there needs to maybe hear my story and feel like they can do it too. And so that kind of keeps me going.
Man, that's a tough question. I don't know. I think, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think there's so many facets to what goes on in the mind and so many things that are occurring. But I think the number one thing maybe is not to treat us as though we are just those thoughts. Because sometimes I feel like when I share my experiences of sexual assault and abuse, I feel like sometimes, or I share like, I'm really sad, I'm really going through something, like I'm having these thoughts. Sometimes people have a tendency to like put you in and this is all you are. Like and they treat you like some like delicate plate. They're like, oh, I can't drop you. I got to put you down on styrofoam and all that. But I think the thing to also note is like, I'm more than what I'm going through. And I want you to see me as more than that, because that helps me see me for more than that. Because if you just, every time we have a conversation, you talk to me about, oh, are you having suicidal thoughts? Like that almost reinforces my identity and it grows this thing out. And it's like, I'm normal, I'm a human. Please ask me about other things as well. I'm more than what I'm going through. You are more than what you are going through. So yeah, I think that would be the one thing I guess I wish more people would know and understand and treat each other as if they knew that was going on.
Okay, so I took a couple of notes because I didn't want to forget anything. But what I would say is that suicidal ideation, it's not a choice, it's a feeling. You know, some people have the impression like, oh, well, why do you want to do that? And it's like, it's not really like you want to. It's not like you want to do that. It's just like a feeling that you feel like you should. It comes from, you know, like just a place of like darkness of how you're feeling. Also, what people should know about it is that a lot of the times people who are having suicidal thoughts, they're self-harming. Sometimes they're using heavy drugs, not all the time. But I think people should know that, because if they see a friend of theirs or somebody that they know is doing that, or they're seeing like little hints that maybe they're hiding their risk or they're trying to cover something up, that you might want to check on that person a little bit more, because they may be having suicidal thoughts. And it's just an indication that that person, they need a relief from like the emotional pain. So just to, you know, be an open ear for them.
That really is a tough question. And I like what both Lorward and Nayoché had to say. The mind is a very tricky thing. And I think that the first thing that comes to me is that it's not always a red flag, because I think that it can be something that we use as a processing kind of skill, and that our minds kind of go there sometimes just to use, as like I said before, as a coping mechanism. And so I think people could almost see it as that, as just sort of like a process that a lot of people do tend to go through when they're trying to figure out the trauma. That's all I could say about it.
I was reading a book recently about just like spousal relationships, and they were saying one of the big things that you can do to like improve any relationship is what your spouse does that is unknown to you and you don't witness, to take an intentional effort to see what they are doing behind the scenes to make things happen for you, and to really appreciate that and to call that out. I think there are so many things that we take for granted, either in our friends, our family, people at Starbucks, or just customer service representatives, that they do things for us that truly change the way we experience the world. And I think one thing for me is to not like shower me with compliments, right? I don't think that ever works. But I think it is to see the efforts we are making, the things we are doing behind the scenes, and to bring that out into the light and say like, hey, like, I know you've been struggling a lot, and there's a lot on your plate, but thank you so much for taking the time to be present today, or thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. I think that goes a long way, because I feel like so often we feel as though people don't understand what we are going through. And for someone to come alongside you and say like, hey, I know that you're doing these things, and maybe no one's giving you thanks for this yet, but I really want to give you thanks for that. And to just like be appreciative and grateful, I think is like a really big way that we can be supported. And not only us, but like, I think it's a good role overall. I think if we did that to everyone, we just say, hey, thanks for writing my name correctly. Or like, hey, thanks for getting my order right. Or thanks for doing it with a smile. I think those things make life a little bit better and a little less hell for everyone. And I think that's a way in which when you have those moments and you're like, everything's garbage, and you kind of think like, oh wait, but that person smiled at me. Oh wait, hold on, wait a second, they gave me an extra scone. Like, that's what I'm talking about. I think it really does help and goes a long way to just make things a little better.
For me, what my loved ones can do to help me is just keep checking on me. I'm one that sometimes I feel like incredibly like lonely sometimes, and like sometimes I get really isolated. So I always appreciate, when my mom texts me and checks on me and just like, oh, I'm just saying hi, or like when my brother texts me, he'll randomly text me and be like, I hope you have an amazing day and like you're wonderful, or like little things like you said, like acknowledge, like if I'm going through one of my very depressive periods where I'm not like taking care of myself as much, I'm not brushing my hair, I'm not getting dressed up, and I decide to finally brush my hair, my brother would be like, okay, I see you, like, and hypes me up and makes me feel good. So I think it's important for that, and to not keep bringing it up. Also, it's like, how are you feeling today? Do you feel like you're gonna kill yourself today? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do that. You can check on me without having to directly ask me that question, and just just be normal.
I think for me, it is definitely because I am very secretive. Like I said, it's only been a year where I've really started coming to terms with talking about things, and realizing stuff that I was doing that I didn't realize as a response to my situation. And I definitely would say, because a lot of people still don't know, I'm not going to be very open still, but just the little texts, just the little check-ins mean everything. And honestly, I'm always somebody that's like, it's the little things for me, and it really is. It is like, hey, how is your day? Or seeing something in the store that they knew that I would probably like, and they take a picture of it and they send it to me. And hey, I saw this. I thought you would really. Just these little things that actually acknowledge my existence. I mean, just acknowledge my existence, because I am going to come from a place where I am going to feel like I'm bothering you. I'm going to feel like I'm a burden. I'm going to be secretive. You're not going to really know everything. And so the fact that you would go out of your way to acknowledge my existence and make me feel like I'm important to you, that means the world to me. And that brings me out more and more from, a lot of things.
I think like that, oh, but your life is so good. I like, oh my gosh, the number of times I've like told someone I've been like going through something really tough, and they're like, oh, but you like seem so happy. It's like, it doesn't matter what I seem like, okay? I'm feeling this. Don't discredit how I am feeling right now. I'm confiding in you. You just shot my feelings down, and now I'm never gonna share with you again. And so I think that would be something really important, just to acknowledge the feelings that exist. I think even just like, even for kids, like when they say like, oh, like, I feel like my teacher doesn't like me. And then the mom's like, that's not true. It's like, well, and now I'm never sharing with you again, And then they grow up and the parents are like, why doesn't Timmy share anything with me? It's like, because you always shut him down. Like, why would he? And I think that's very true. When we do confide in you and we are sharing something that's very delicate, to treat it with the severity that it deserves, and to, you know, not make yourself feel better, right? It's not like, oh, but your life is so good and you like seem so happy. It's like, okay, like I don't know what's going on, but I want to help. Like, how do I do that? And I think that's a really open and honest way to continue that conversation without being someone who's like trying to take something that is inherently chaotic and unknown and trying to like fit it into this like confined space.
I think, just like you said, acknowledging someone's feelings, don't belittle them, because I've experienced that too. Because I'm very like Krysti, like I'm very bubbly, I'm like super goofy, I'm like such a people person. So like, and when I do, or when people see the interviews or talks on my on the foundation's page, and they're like, oh my god, like what, that's crazy, like I don't expect that, blah blah blah, and it's like they're missing the point, in a sense. It's not about like what you thought, like you said, it's not about what you think you see. It's about what the person's actually feeling, what's going on. Also, do things that like make them feel good. You know, like if you know that somebody is having suicidal thoughts, maybe like if you know they love, I don't know, Italian food, like go take them out for some spaghetti one day, or take them out to the zoo, or take them out for a walk, or play 2K with them, or whatever. Just do little things with them that reminds them about the nice and like the good things about being alive, and the things you can enjoy, and the people you can enjoy that with, you know.
I like what both Lorward and Nayoché said. I felt probably a little weird one time when someone said to me like that they wanted to kill themselves, and I probably was triggered by that because they didn't know that I regularly had a lot of those feelings. And I did the same thing like Lorward was just talking about. Oh, but you don't want to do that. Your life is so great. And then I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I feel this regularly. Why would I be saying this? I would hate somebody telling me that. I really, really would. Another thing that I really, the one of the reasons why I started being more coming to terms with it was the one person in my circle that I confided in about it. And she really is still the only person that really truly knows in my circle of friends. She, it's such a weird thing, but maybe it's not weird. She normalized it for me. She just made it, she just normalized ideation. She's like, you know what? A lot of people have this. A lot of people go through this. And there was no there was nothing more than that, and it just it made me feel okay. It just was like, oh yeah, okay. And then we just talked about things that I wanted to do. You know, hey, what are you doing? You know, I could tell, like, now that I look back and I'm like, she was strategic in this. Oh, what do you want to do next weekend? What should we plan for, next month? So then she's like making me think about things in the future, and, hey, let's do a party like for this and this. And so now that I'm saying it, I'm saying it to you all, and I'm thinking, oh, that's what she was doing. How dare her? No, but it was really great. But I think the normalizing, just being very like, yeah, a lot of people go through that, and it just made me feel better about it all. So.
Yeah, definitely going to pull from a lot of sources that and a lot of things that were said during today's panel. But I think, yeah, you're not abnormal or needing to be committed because you're thinking these things. You're someone who is going through a lot. Like, I think I always say, like, everyone is going through the hardest time of their life, always. Like, I think that's just like the nature of things. Like, life is so unbelievably complicated, and to realistically ask someone to have a handle on everything is so unbelievably like a high standard and so unrealistic. And so, yeah, it does feel like things are crumbling around your ears and everything's garbage and people are fighting and no one wants to listen to each other, but you're doing the best that you can, and that's all that we can ask for. And we want to encourage you to keep going because you're doing great. Like, you're here, you're making impact, you're doing things, and you're present, and we need that. We need people to be here and to be present. And I think often it's the people who are struggling the most who have this innate ability to touch other people in ways that just can't be understood. It's that deep consciousness of, I know how much I can hurt, and now I know how much this person is hurting, and I know how I can help them. And I think that's so unbelievably important. Like, it's amazing that we're in this panel right now talking about this with each other, and like, I'm being encouraged just in this moment. And like, this is what we need more of. Like, we need more of these things, and like, we want you here. Yeah, we love you. We're here for you. We're rooting for you.
I agree with everything you just said. Also, for anyone who is feeling suicidal or is having suicidal thoughts, please do not underestimate the power of calling a hotline. And it sounds so cliche, but it can really, really help you when you talk to someone who doesn't know you through a hole in the wall and you're able just unfold everything that you're feeling, and that can sometimes prevent you from doing something that you really don't want to do. um, and yeah, so when you're feeling those thoughts, you gotta learn how to just, and it's hard, but like they're wrong. Like they don't know what they're saying. You gotta learn how to just give those voices the middle finger and be like, I'm not gonna pay attention to you today. And that takes practice, and it's not gonna happen overnight, and it's not gonna happen necessarily in a week or a month. But you just have to try to remember that those voices are false and they're coming from a place of hurt, and you just got to figure out how to turn that pain into power so that you can be happy, and you can do it. You deserve it. Yeah.
All of that, and what Laura said. um, if somebody were to come to me telling me about ideation, I think what I would tell them what would be that to not be afraid of it. Number one, it doesn't make you strange. It actually is, in some ways, a very normal response to trying to figure out how to process and cope with whatever you're feeling inside. Um, but also, if you're feeling like you're going to plan it out, you're going to do everything, do that, but then talk to someone, or understand that you're going to keep going, that you have more to do, and that you are not alone, because a lot of us have done that. A lot of us have been in that boat, and we're here, and we're still here to support each other. And so I guess I would say to someone to just seek out that support and to find a trusted friend that they can process all of those feelings. I guess I just come at a weird view of it, because I truly saw it as almost a coping mechanism, more than anything. But when you all were talking about how here we are talking to each other, so we didn't go through with our plans, and thank God, because we have each other now, and we're able to be pillars of support for other people. And I think of that throughout my whole life, through cancer. Like here I am being a survivor. I have to continue to survive because I have people looking up at me for that. I don't want all that pressure, honestly, but I do feel like I have a purpose, and that these struggles gave me that purpose. And I would tell that person going through whatever they're going through, you also have a purpose. And I think that is the most important message someone can hear, because really that's why we are thinking what we're thinking, because we feel like we don't have a purpose. And then when we realize that we do, it changes everything.
Hi, my name is Lorward, and I'm a survivor.
Hi, my name is Nayoché, and I'm a survivor.
Hi, my name is Krysti, and I'm a survivor.